While Human is meant to work on most scripts that you'll use in Maya, there is definitely a way to get more out of it than just have them work. And if you've gone through some of the videos on Human's main page, first of all, you'll have set up this examples directory, but also you may have noticed that you can get these automatic UIs where values will be able to be put in for you based on what you have selected. So let's say I have a cube here and I click this. Cube shows up there. Let's say I click that. Well, now I'm going to get the translate Z attribute. Let's say I've got a vector there. Let's move this guy. Click on the vector button. It's going to put those values in. The float, Anyway, going over what I've already talked about on the main page, what this is going to be about is how you actually can get the default values, say. Let's say you'll notice this one opened up. This one didn't, but this one opened up with nothing. Open up this one, well, it had a default value of A. This one had a default value of 555. So the simple way to set all that up, as well as, if you see if I mouse over this, you'll see there's some tooltips that show up with descriptions of what each of these things actually does. Setting that up is not at all necessary, but very, very handy and super easy to do, just as long as you follow some of the sort of commenting styles or documentation styles. egDocStyle is what the script called, so let's call it documentation style. Okay, so the first thing is you're going to want to open this script up, obviously this way through examples egDocStyle, but you're also going to want to open it in an editor, which you can get to from View in Editor, whatever you have linked up to Mel files. But you're also going to want to go to the Help menu here and open up the wiki for egDocStyle, which is the page that you're already on, so I don't know why I'm telling you to do that, but roll with me. Okay, so the reason I want you to have all those three available is I want you to be able to see what the tagging looks like and then how it affects how each area is set up. So let's start in the Mel script because that is the source information for everything. Everything will be built off of your script, whether it's a Mel script or a Python script. So first of all, up here, everything that appears before the first script is considered belonging to the whole suite of tools. So let's say you've got 20 tools in here. Well, everything above where the first global procedure is defined, or in the case of a Python script, the first definition function, everything above that belongs to all the tools. So first of all, let's just take a quick look at the first line. So /doc. This Mel script is meant to provide examples of various tags. Blah, blah, blah. Sounds familiar. All right, if you go now back into Maya, go over to the Documentation tab. Look at that. This Mel script is meant to provide examples of various tags that can get you blah, blah, blah. So the first place where tagging things up is going to be handy is you'll get a Documentation tab in your script UI, which will just faithfully put whatever you have in there out here. The other place it's beneficial, though, is if you've gone and created an AutoWiki, which is done like that. It's also taken all that text and put it on your wiki page. So this Mel script is meant to provide examples of blah, 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 blah. One quick thing you'll notice is that if you have things that do show up as HTML or wiki, they're going to show up on this page properly. The next tags I want to talk about that belong to the whole script and not a specific procedure are the help doc tag, which is a link to your wiki page, which can be global or local. And then the next one is the help vid tag, which is just a YouTube video link or any kind of video link that your wiki supports. The first real tag I want you to look at is the procedure that has egDocStyle nothing. So let's go to egDocStyle nothing. So just as this says, this contains no special commenting, and so it'll get no special attention, meaning this is stuff that won't show up in the auto UI in Maya. It also won't show up on your wiki. You could see it if you changed your documentation settings in the setup window, but that's not what we're talking about here. So no special tags. This procedure here shows up in Maya as nothing there, and on the wiki it just shows up as plain as can be. Let's go on to the next one, the doc tag. The doc tag is exactly the same tag that you saw at the head of the script, but you'll see it now inside a script. By the way, to make things belong to a particular tool, a particular procedure, the documentation has to occur inside of it. So after the first curly and before the last. Okay, behind these doc tags here, you'll see that says by adding commenting with the doc tag, you'll see this message in the Maya audio A and in this description for this procedure in the auto wiki. Okay, so is that true? All right, we go into here, we'll see that this procedure, yes, it has that information. Okay, and then we go to the wiki, doc tag. There's still no argument, so the usage is the same, but now in the synopsis, there we go. Okay, doc tag, very simple, it's documentation. Shows up at the head of the script, shows up in the synopsis for a specific tool, and shows up in the documentation for a specific script in the auto UI. Okay, so the next one is showing you defaults and no variable tags. What this means is, this is the way that the auto UI will build things if, as in this case, sure, you've got yourself some documentation, so you know how that works, but now you've actually got arguments coming into your script. Well, these arguments, you know, they don't have any special tagging on them. That's just how I would declare a variable going into a procedure. But when I open that up in the auto UI, you'll notice it has little text boxes for all these things. You're familiar with how these work? Yay, fancy, fun, yay. This is just an example of, okay, this here is free. In Python, it's a little different. In Python, you do have to declare a default value, but in these ones, it's or a type rather, by setting a default value. But in a Mel script, there's nothing to it. You have these, you're good to go. Let's go to the next one. So the vardoc tag. The vardoc tag is what gives you this, the ability to have tooltips show up. Now, whatever tooltip that you've set for this variable is going to show up over the name, the field, and the button. In the script, the vardoc tag looks like this. You say vardoc /vardoc, or in the case of Python, #vardoc, space, your variable name, and then text that is a description of that variable name. I like to keep these short. It's easier to read here. It's also easier to read as a tooltip. And so I've gone and put in some documentation for these values you see here. But this here is all it took for me to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different tooltips onto my auto UI without really any work. So that's kind of handy. Now, what did that do out in the wiki? So usage is same. But now we've got our synopsis, which was behind the doc tags. But now when I get into the variables, which up here had no information, there was no information on them whatsoever, but they showed up in the wiki. Now with the vardoc tag, I'm getting that same description here. Now for the var drop tag. The var drop tag is a default value and drop down values for any of your variables. You'll see that name here has A as a default, but it's also got B, C, and D that are available to me as menu items over here. The var drop tag looks just like this. /var drop, or in Python it's #var drop, your variable name, and then a bunch of default values separated by commas. Once you get out to the wiki, where before it would say default values and just put in the default value for that type of variable, the var drop tag, you'll see just like that, it shows the default values that you should or could or use, or anything you want really, but they'll print those out in the wiki as well. The next thing isn't really a new thing. It's just saying, okay, this is what a fully marked up script looks like. We've essentially got some documentation here in the window. We've got tooltips that pop up. We've got default values and drop downs. So vardoc and drop is an example of everything on the table. This is a fully marked up script. So if we go into the wiki, I'm sure that you'll not be surprised when I tell you, look, there's that video tag. Usage like usual, synopsis, which is what was behind the doc tag. Then you've got your variable names, descriptions, and default values. So that's absolutely everything.